Alright, welcome back everyone. I'm suffering from a bit of a cold, so I apologize if I sound awful, but that's just life. It happens. So we're going to finish up our little generator project here. Now, when we left off, I had begun the process of reassembling this carburetor with some parts that I had ordered. So this is the original Keehan carburetor. I opted not to replace the carburetor with a brand new one from Amazon or eBay because the superior quality to the original, in my humble opinion, it's just my opinion, is worth the effort over the replacement carburetor. In fact, you know, that's just kind of how I do things. Everybody has their own methods, their own way of working, way of thinking. I've always been of the mindset that original is always better than aftermarket, and that's just how I do it. When I ordered some parts from a factory authorized parts seller, it turns out that I misidentified one of the parts in the diagram. See, when you buy carburetor, engine parts, or whatever, motorcycle parts, you see a blow up of all the parts numbered and where they go. And the way the diagram was written, I misinterpreted one of the gasket kits, and I thought it was a gasket kit, not a single gasket. So my bad. So I went ahead and I bought, for 10 bucks, I bought another one. This is a factory Honda gasket kit for this carburetor. Now, this includes a few different O-rings and little bits and pieces here. This is our bowl gasket. And that bowl gasket gets tucked into this lip here. We just kind of push it in. It has these little nubby finger things that keep it in place when you reassemble the carb. And that'll be good as new. I've got a couple of little O-rings here too. So this O-ring here is a duplicate of what we have in this sediment cup. So we don't need that. But there should have been in here. There should be. Oh, here it is. Oh, there's one of them. Okay. So there's a fiber gasket here. That fiber gasket is for the drain plug for the float bowl. And we're going to pop the old one off, pop the new one on. Bada boom, bada bing, bing, bong. Okay. Now, there should be a little, there it is. Okay, so the O-ring, this is actually the drain, the bowl drain. This one is the bowl attachment bolt. So we're going to pop the little gasket, little O-ring off of the drain. Oh, there it is. This gets popped off of here. Now, for gaskets and seals that are over 25 years old, these are in remarkably good condition. And that, again, that just stands to testify, as a testament, to the quality of the original carburetor's materials. And Honda takes this stuff very seriously. And that's why I'm always going to stick with factory parts where possible. For example, when I did the timing kit on my Miata, and I did all of those other ancillary repairs and stuff just for AC. Look at this one. See, this one's cracking. This guy is about ready to let loose. But for 25 years old, that's par for the course. When I did all that work to the Miata, I didn't go off to eBay looking for the cheapest stuff. I went right to some legitimate sources, and I got the best parts I could possibly find for the money. So I'm gonna. I just realized that this drain here is a bit clogged, so we're gonna clean that up with a sewing needle. All right. As far as I know, this engine this carb has never been cleaned before. You know, so it ran very well up until the end, and at that point, it was just so bad that I couldn't even. It would not run under a load at all, no matter what I tried. And that's how you know it's time for a cleaning. So that's cleaned up a little bit. Now we're going to pop in our new shiny O-ring. There it is. There we go. I mean, generators are a device that, you know, you kind of want it to be ready for anything. You don't know if you're going to hit a power outage that is a couple hours long or a couple weeks long. You never know. So that's why, you know, my methodology when dealing with stuff like this, I want the best parts I can buy. If this is a lawnmower, I don't give a flying. A lawnmower is not an emergency device, but a generator is. And that's why I try to stick with the best, not necessarily the most cost-effective repair solutions for something like one of these generators. So the bowl goes on like that. Now we want to orient. So this is the, we want to make sure that that drain is accessible when the carburetor is mounted. So this is going to be the fuel inlet. This is the side that mounts to the engine. That's where our, so this is going to stick out like that. Something like that. It's going to go in at a slight angle. So we're going to put it on that way. There's no key on this that I can see. It just goes on. If you've ever worked on a Lawson carburetor for like a Tecumseh, engine, I mean, really, however many of you guys see those these days, they were common when I was little, but not so much anymore. But those, the bowls are frustrating because you have to visually align them. It's not like a foolproof, you know, one-size-fits-all situation. You kind of have to eyeball it. But these Hondas are a little different. Now, I don't have a 10mm wrench down here, so I'll tighten it up in the garage. Pop the drain screw back in. And that just goes over here. The nice thing about this carburetor is I should have to do very, very little adjustment to the idle mixture, and then that'll be it. It'll be pretty simple. There's one other seal here. I've got this little guy, and I don't know where it goes. I don't recall taking apart anything that had a seal like this. But I think there's a parts diagram in here. No bueno. No, I don't know where that goes. I'll have to figure that out. There was a seal included in one of the kits that was actually for the fuel shutoff valve. There is a replaceable seal in there, but this one is riveted shut. So this one was never meant to be repaired. If this were to go bad, or if it were to begin leaking, I unfortunately, we would have to cut the rivets off and then drill and tap and re-thread this all together. It's a little bit chintzy, but yeah, I mean, they have to artificially limit the lifespan of these things somehow. All right, now at this point, we're ready to mount our carby back. So I'm going to just tighten up this bowl screw. Just give it a little snug. I don't think it's possible to really over-tighten that one. We're going to snug up the drain. Okay. And we're going to get our carburetor on. So this guy goes in like this. We've already got our gasket on. Alright. Next up, we need to hook up the linkage. This goes in like that. And the spring here, it goes into that tiny little hole there. It might be easier to hook that one in first. We don't want to bend that brand new spring that we just put in. So there you are. That goes in there. Okay. Oh shit. They don't make this easy, do they? Is that overall as far as it goes? Yeah, it is. Maybe. Oh, you know what? I think it actually has to go in after the fact. So, I'm going to unhook that, unhook that. And the carburetor's got to be in there first. This out of the way. Yeah, it is. Okay. Let me see what they want me to do. There we go. Let's get pretty close so we don't have to contort that spring too far. There, we're in. Okay. Now, since we're already in this position, we're going to go ahead and hook up the fuel line. So I'm going to cut it to length. Looks like I don't want to cut it too short. I think that ought to do it. We're going to cut it right where this F is. So let me get something to cut that with. Alright. Right there. Okay. Now we're going to need a clamp. I have some OEM clamps in my pocket. These are just little C-clip things. Now these work better on OEM fuel line. This is an aftermarket fuel line, so. But if you saw what they were selling the OEM fuel line for, it was overpriced, way overpriced. So I wasn't gonna do that. No, 3. All right, come on now. Let's get that hooked around. There we go. Almost there. Okay. There we go. All right. Just press it right in. There we go. Now, that'll never leak. All right, so this that moves freely. Once the engine starts up, it'll start to take up the slack, and we'll be able to adjust the governor if needed. After that, okay. Replacing this final gasket wasn't entirely necessary. It was one of those, hey, while you're there, might as well deals. A very beefy looking thing. It's made, this new one, I don't have the old one, but it's a piece of steel with rubber molded into it. It's a quality piece right there, and that'll do that. Okay, so now we got to get our take back together. Okay, so the original one, yeah, it just, yeah, okay. Anyway, just muttering to myself here. I gotta get the fuel shut off and there we go. Open that up. Get that out of the way. Now that slides in like that. Now we're gonna go ahead and affix the carburetor mounting nuts. That's just these little acorn guys. It's a lot easier when you have the cage removed from the generator, doing something like this. So you tighten these up first. You don't want to crank them. This isn't a strongman competition. Just make them nice and snug and even. Even is critical because if you don't have them even, the carburetor will not interface with its gaskets evenly, right? And this guy goes on. And that kind of solidifies everything. Got our spark plug in position. Plug wire. Okay. Now, this next part, this is the engine's breather tube. Now that's supposed to connect to the air filter housing somehow, and oh yeah, there's an opening for it at the bottom here. It kind of gets shoved up in there. So I'll just shove it up in there. Come on now. I think I was supposed to do that first. Yeah, this hose here. Now it's swollen a little bit, but not too much. And that just gets stuffed up in there. All right. Now we put this back on. All right, so that's all back together. This all moves freely. Let the fuel shut off. Linkage is all linked and happy. Let's see, what else? Okay, we have access to all of the pertinent adjustment screws. And I'll put our air filter back in. Alright. Now, I do believe this goes on, yeah, like that. And there we go. So then you've got the filter, goes on top of that. Now this filter is what came with the damn thing, but it's pretty clean. It looks almost brand new. I'm not going to replace this. There's nothing wrong with it. I mean, it's one of those insurance things. You replace it just for the insurance of having a new filter, but there's no point to doing that, really. Just an unnecessary repair or unnecessary expense. The thing is, this generator is designed to have this sock removed and cleaned and then sprayed with oil. I do believe that's what you're supposed to do. I know that Briggs & Stratton does the same setup, and those you have to, you're supposed to oil them. With their older engines, anyway. Okay, so this is all back together again. Now we're going to put the frame back on, and we'll haul it outside and put some gas in her. Okay, so I only put a little bit of fuel in this guy. Just a little bit. Just enough to get it running a little, stabilized. What we're going to do is we're going to get it warmed up, and we're going to put a load on it. An electric heater, something that's stable. And then we're going to adjust the idle speed. And we're going to use a multimeter to check the generator's output frequency. So you adjust the idle or the run speed to match 60 hertz output. That's kind of how you do it, from what I gather. So let's get the fuel turned on, choke turned on. Fuel is on, and let's see what happens. This has always been the easiest starting engine I've ever owned. Usually fires without any complaints. So let's see if it makes me a liar. There you have it. The old reliable Honda. Now it's in idle speed right now. We're going to have to raise that up a bit. carburetor output frequency.
Couple of things I want to point out here. Number one, what I'm trying to do is probably not the correct way to get the engine speed. That's I'm using the multimeter and recording the output frequency and trying to get it at 60 hertz with a 750 watt motor. That's the heater you see there. Not really working out for me because as soon as I get close to that 60 hertz magic number, it just starts running erratic. So what I need to do is actually get a tachometer and set the engine speed as my baseline and leave it the hell alone. I do suspect that the main jet is too small. Maybe I got the wrong one. Because once I get that thing, once it's cranking, it starts to sputter, and it shouldn't. Because there's nothing wrong with the carburetor. It's clean. There are no vacuum leaks. I mean, there's no reason why it should be starving for fuel. It doesn't have a full tank of gas. That shouldn't really be a concern either. So, I mean, I have some more tinkering to do, but she runs great. No smoke, no knocking, nothing out of the ordinary, no leaks. I mean, you couldn't ask for a better generator. But I do need to play with the engine speed and get that set correctly. Hell, I may even need to do some work to the generator itself. It could have worn brushes. I need to look up what sort of replacement parts are needed on a generator like that. But otherwise, it's a good little unit. I'm gonna keep it around the house, and we lose power, and I need to run, I could run the furnace with this thing. I could run the furnace. I could run the refrigerator. Not something I'd want to run for the long term because it's really not geared for that. It's a pretty small unit, pretty loud, and neighborhood won't want to hear that one. In the event of an emergency, long-term power outage, having a generator even this size is good to have. You never know when you're going to. Now, what I intend to do at this point, once I get it dialed in, I'm going to drain the fuel out and just keep it dry until it's needed again. And that's how I'm going to store it. I was storing it with a full tank, but I just don't think that's the right thing to do because it's a vented tank. When you have a vented fuel tank like this, and it's not set up with a carbon canister or anything like that, it means air can get to the fuel. That means the fuel solvents can evaporate out and leave behind nasty, cruddy stuff that you really don't want to run in the engine. So, thank you for watching, and we'll catch you on the flip side.
Now we're going to give it a